The remarkable thing about God is that when you fear God, you fear nothing else. Whereas if you do not fear God, you fear everything else. We are not responsible for the circumstances we are in, but we are responsible for the way we allow those circumstances to affect us. We can either allow them to get on top of us, or we can allow them to transform us into what God wants us to be. Spiritual maturity is not reached by the passing of the years, but by obedience to the will of God. We have to pray with our eyes on God, not on the difficulties. All of God's people are ordinary people who have been made extraordinary by the purpose He has given them. There is no need to get to a place of prayer. Pray wherever you are. Every element of your self-reliance must be put to death by the power of God. Get into the habit of saying, "Speak, Lord," and life will become a romance. You must learn to wrestle against the things that hinder your communication with God. Be rightly related to God. Find your joy there, and out of you will flow rivers of living water. Trust God and do the next thing. Never make the blunder of trying to forecast the way God is going to answer your prayer. Not often, but every once in a while, God brings us to a major turning point, a great crossroads in our life. Faith that is sure of itself is not faith. Faith that is sure of God is the only faith there is. The great thing about faith in God is that it keeps a man undisturbed in the midst of disturbance. Obey God in the things He shows you, and instantly the next thing is opened up. God will never reveal more truth about Himself until you have obeyed what you know already. This chapter brings out the delight of real friendship with God. Don't read to remember, read to realize. Faith never knows where it is being led, but it loves and knows the one who is leading. Never take your obedience as the reason God blesses you. Obedience is the outcome of being rightly related to God. God does not give us overcoming life. He gives us life as we overcome. If a man cannot prove his religion in the valley, it is not worth anything. There is actually only one thing you can dedicate to God, and that is your right to yourself. If you will give God your right to yourself, He will make a holy experiment out of you, and His experiments always succeed. We tend to use prayer as a last resort, but God wants it to be our first line of defense. Get to the end of yourself where you can do nothing, but where He does everything. We can all see God in exceptional things, but it requires the growth of spiritual discipline to see God in every detail. We have to pray with our eyes on God, not on the difficulties. Think it through to its logical conclusion, and if the outcome is something that God would condemn, put a stop to it immediately. There is no joy in the soul that has forgotten what God prizes. Don't compare yourself with others or judge them. That is between God and them. You will find yourself at your wit's end, but at the beginning of God's wisdom. God designed me, created me, blesses me, heals me, defends me, forgives me, loves me. Our focus must be on God alone, and not on those among whom we live. Never forget who you are, what you have been, and what you may be, by the grace of God. The most dangerous and unsure thing is try to live without God. The tiniest detail in which I obey has all the omnipotent power of the grace of God behind it. Solitude with God repairs the damage done by the fret and noise and clamor of the world. Worshipping God is the greatest essential of spiritual fitness. Do not have as your motive the desire to be known as a praying man. Get an inner chamber in which to pray where no one knows you are praying. Shut the door and talk to God in secret. God comes in, where my helplessness begins. When you have learned to walk in the light of the Lord, bitterness and contention are impossible. Worship is giving God the best that He has given you. Be careful with what you do with the best you have. Whenever you get a blessing from God, give it back to Him as a love gift. Take time to meditate before God and offer the blessing back to Him in a deliberate act of worship. The truth is, we have nothing to fear and nothing to overcome because He is all in all, and we are more than conquerors through Him. God speaks in the language you know best, not through your ears, but through your circumstances. Look back over your own history, as revealed to you by grace, and you will see one central fact growing large: God is love. God is wonderful. He brings the friend we need just at the right time, and removes them just at the right time.